Alison, feel free to share your slides anytime, and we'll just give people a few more minutes to join, or one more minute to join. Welcome, everyone. And get started in just a moment. Okay, well, I'll just get it started here and give a few housekeeping items. I'm Kathleen Brady, the Executive Director of I2SL, and we're very excited to bring you a webinar today on our new Actionable Insights and Measures report, or AIM report. We have this, everyone muted. This is a webinar mode, but you can definitely ask questions. Use the Q&A icon at the bottom of your side of your screen. We do have the chat open if you want to make any comments, but please use the Q&A for questions and we will take them at the end. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started with our Labs to Zero Program Director, Alison Farmer.
All right, thanks, Kathleen. Welcome everybody. As Kathleen mentioned, we are super excited to tell you about the AIM report today, our brand new product from the Labs to Zero program. So getting started, here's the outline of what we're going to talk about in this webinar. We're first going to give an overview of the tools that are available from the Labs to Zero program today. We're then going to go into detail about the AIM report and walk through in detail how it works, and then a specific example showing you real screenshots from the tool. We're going to talk about how to get started using AIM, and then we're going to look ahead to the future and things that are coming up from the Labs to Zero program and specifically from AIM as well. And then at the end, we're going to give a quick preview of what to expect from Labs to Zero at our upcoming annual conference in Dallas next month. So let's get started by talking a little bit about Labs to Zero overall. So you may have heard about Labs to Zero already. Labs to Zero is I2SL's most ambitious program to date. The program is designed to save energy and reduce emissions in lab buildings, and specifically to address the fact that a lot of the programs out there for energy efficiency, recognition of high performance, for identifying opportunities, just really don't serve lab buildings that well. And we really wanted to change that. So to that end, we created this program that has various components, including benchmarking and scoring to be able to assess performance of lab buildings. We have tools to help identify opportunities in those buildings to improve performance. We'll be layering on certifications of high-performing buildings. And then we'll also have a training and accreditation program. So the way we created this program was also very important to us. We wanted to make sure that we took the whole industry's views and expertise into account when creating this. So we assembled a large group of volunteer experts, of industry sponsors for the program from all across the industry. And then we had development partners as well, which are organizations that donated significant amounts of engineering time to us to help us develop the program. So right up front, I want to say a big thank you to all of those who helped us with the program. So all of our more than 100 TAC members, Technical Advisory Council members, serving on 8 TACs across the program. And our 3 development partners for this phase of the program that were Smith Group, Burrow-Happold, and Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory. Thank you also to all of our Labs to Zero sponsors. They're all listed on this page. We've got our Diamond, Platinum, Gold, Silver sponsors, and our international partner, Sustainable Labs Canada as well. We really could not have done this without the input and the participation and the support of all of the organizations and people that I just mentioned. So what do we have in the program today? Because of course, we're still rolling out program components. In the program now, things you can use include our lab benchmarking tool. I'll talk about that in just a second. Our Labs to Zero scorecard, which provides scores for all lab buildings. That's hosted on the LBT. And then the brand new AIM report that we'll be dedicating most of this webinar to. So a quick reminder about the lab benchmarking tool. And I say reminder because this tool has been around for 20 years or more in one form or another. The lab benchmarking tool sits at the foundation now of our Labs to Zero program. It is still this benchmarking analytics tool that sits on top of this very rich database of lab building properties and energy usage. And the way that people use this traditionally is to enter their building data and then look at the data set on the site and filter it to select buildings that are like theirs to benchmark against others. At this point, it does a lot more than that too. It also hosts our building scores, which you could view as automated benchmarking for lab buildings, as well as our other program tools like the AIM report. We've also, over the course of the last 20 years, and especially recently, amassed quite a lot of data on lab buildings. In our anonymized peer group dataset, we now have more than 1,300 lab buildings that covers more than 200 million square foot of building space. The LBT has always been and will always be free to use. It's also free to obtain your building scores. So encourage anybody who has not already used it to give it a try. And if you have in the past, come back. There's a lot more there than there used to be. So without further ado, bringing it on to the main topic of this webinar, which is the AIM report. So AIM stands for Actionable Insights and Measures. And what AIM is our brand new automated energy audit tool for lab buildings. When we were creating the AIM report, we had a number of goals in mind. It was very important to us that the AIM report be easy to use. You don't have to be an HVAC expert to use it. Low cost, lower cost than getting an energy audit done any other way. Quantitative, it actually shows you numbers for savings and expected implementation costs. We wanted it to be quick. You can get immediate results out of this. Objective, we already talked about this. We have all of these volunteers from all across the industry contributing to this program and making sure that this is unbiased. And very much we wanted it to be lab focused. So specialized for lab buildings, because it's lab buildings that really miss those resources that we need to identify opportunities. And overall, the goal was to have this be something like an ASHRAE level 1 sort of level of analysis. So this is a high level scoping analysis that allows you to aim your attention in the right direction and focus on the right priorities for your lab building. So what does the AIM report do? Well, pretty much everything it does is on this slide. So AIM takes your data from the lab benchmarking tool that you've entered on your building. It then analyzes it and then lets you build a package of energy efficiency measures that is customized to your facility. For every one of those measures, AIM will calculate estimated savings. It will show you estimated implementation costs. And it will also take into account interactive effects between measures, which I think we all know are very important in lab buildings, where you're often, all of your measures are affecting airflow. They all do interact with each other. We will show you next steps for further development of those measures. And we will also show you with AIM a list of stakeholders to involve in your facility when you're looking to develop your project further. For every one of these packages of measures you create, AIM will also show you relevant case studies from our case study library so you can see these measures in action in other facilities that are like yours. And then when you're ready to share, when you're building that business case with management for energy efficiency, you can hit a button and generate a PDF report that contains all of the information that you see on these screenshots from the website, as well as some background information about how the report works. That's everything that AIM does. I think it should be fairly clear that this is a really cool tool. You know, we really wanted to create something that would make a difference, that would fill a gap, that would do something quantitative and meaningful and quick and all those other things for lab buildings. So it should be fairly obvious that this is something that people should use, we hope. But really, anyone who needs to build the business case for energy projects in lab facilities could be using AIM. So that could include energy managers at those facilities. They can use it to prioritize attention between different opportunities within one lab facility, or maybe to prioritize attention between their portfolio of buildings if there's certain measures they're thinking about implementing in multiple facilities. We're hoping that energy auditors and consultants will incorporate AIM as part of their consulting offerings just to really get the conversation kicked off about what's possible in those facilities. It could be used by equipment vendors to highlight opportunities for their customers. Again, AIM is a very unbiased approach. This is not coming from one vendor in particular. And so, you know, the information should be treated as highly credible in terms of the likely savings from any particular measure. And then utility companies are always out there looking for potential projects to incentivize. And so this would be a great way to start identifying some of those projects. And of course, as I mentioned before, this is a kind of ASHRAE level 1 scoping audit And so any of these projects that are identified do, of course, need to be followed by in-depth project development and full design and all the rest of it. So we're hoping that really this generates more engineering work, more design, more projects implemented in lab buildings. So how does it work? So looking under the hood a little bit about how AIM does this. What AIM does is it builds an energy model of your lab facility. So if you've used the lab benchmarking tool before, you'll probably know that you don't need to enter that many data points to get a good benchmark or an energy score for your building. Maybe only 12 to 15 different pieces of information. And so that's certainly not enough information to create a full energy model and calculate estimated savings for all of these measures. So the way that AIM does that is it makes a series of intelligent assumptions for those other parameters that you didn't tell the lab benchmarking tool. So it looks at what you did tell the tool, and it looks at what industry standard practice is, what would be normal for a building of that type, and it fills in those gaps with assumptions. If you don't like those assumptions, you can absolutely go and change them in the tool. It shows you what it's assumed, but that's how it works. And then it combines all of that with our library of energy efficiency measures for lab facilities, currently 26 measures. And it will show you which of those measures are applicable to your facility. It will show you the estimated implementation costs and savings for those measures. And as I mentioned, it will take into account the way that those measures interact with each other. And then what you do is from that list of applicable measures, you build a package, an efficiency project of measures by choosing from that list. So what does that list look like? Here's the list of AIM measures. We're not going to look through all of them. We're not going to read through all of it right now. But I want to highlight that we have many of the biggest measures for lab buildings in here. We have measures that affect the HVAC systems, the building controls, occupant engagement, room level controls, and then many measures associated with fume hood controls and upgrades. So it covers a lot of those really sort of lab specific topics, as I mentioned. We're also developing other measures. It's not going to stop there, but this is the 26 measures that are in the tool right now. So for each one of those measures is actually quite a lot of information and work that went into developing the measure itself. So this is what one of the measure descriptions would look like in the AIM tool. In this case, it's VAV controls for fume hoods. You can see at the top here, we've got the savings and cost summary. We'll show you the impact of implementing that measure on your Labs to Zero energy score and on your energy use intensity. We then have this pretty lengthy, pretty detailed measure description. And so in here, we talk about things like why the measure saves energy, different ways you could go about implementing this measure, things that would affect the energy savings at your facility that are available from this measure, non-energy benefits, those stakeholders that you should engage when thinking about implementing this, and then some details about how exactly we did the calculations, where exactly the cost estimates came from, and the sorts of things that could affect those specific values at your facility. So there's a lot in there, and a lot of that came from those technical advisory councils that I mentioned. There's also a lot in our case studies. So we have a fairly extensive library of case studies at this point. So for each case study that is identified and associated with your package, there's quite a bit of information too. So in this case, this is for one particular package. The first thing you'll notice is that each case study has a match score, and that's the score that's based on the quality of information that's in that case study, how useful information we had in there, as well as the similarity of the case study facility to your facility and to the measures you chose. So you're going to get like case studies in rank order of that match score with the highest first. For every case study, there's a title, and then there is a summary that describes the highlights of the case study itself. At the bottom, there's a list of the measures that appear in that case study, so you can see right away which of the measures this affects. And we're going to show you up to 10 case studies per package of measures that you generate. You can also go to the case study itself, the full PDF of the case study, by clicking on this, either the title of the measure or this little link icon next to it, and that will take you to the full PDF that's got multiple pages with all the details. Speaking of PDFs, the AIM PDF report also has a lot of information in it. This is the thing that you generate at the end of that process of creating a package. So here's kind of a scatter of all the pages that are in a typical PDF report from AIM. You can see that in addition to, the normal stuff of title pages and all that kind of thing, we have quite a lot of useful information. So we have some background information on how AIM works and how to use the results of AIM. We have those individual measure summaries. We put those in the report as well. We have overall package summaries and executive summary, some nice savings charts, some reference information about all the parameters and assumptions from your calculations. We have those case study summaries, and then we also have a nice page acknowledging everyone who helped support the program. So there's a lot in all of those things. All right. So we've talked about what's in AIM. Now it's time to show you what using AIM looks like. So we're going to do a walkthrough for one building in particular. This is our favorite example building. It's called Super Test Facility. It is a university R&D building in Boston. It's not really, but it might be. It is reasonably large, 120,000 square foot. It has a decent amount of bio and chemistry lab space, about 48,000 square feet. The typical lab layout looks something like on the left here. Most of the spaces in the building have one fume hood. Some of them have ultra low temperature freezers. I mentioned that because those are important energy drivers for lab facilities, and AIM knows that too and is going to look at those. The building is kind of a moderate performer. So its Labs to Zero energy score is 53, which means that it's, kind of median. It's better than half of buildings out there. And its site EUI is, correspondingly 246 kb2 per square foot per year. The building has had some work done on it. So the HVAC systems are VAV at this point. The minimum ventilation rates have at some point been reduced to 6 air changes an hour, and night setback of room temperatures has been implemented. However, all the fume hoods in the building, those ones in the corner of most of the lab spaces, are still constant air volume. So we're going to talk about that as we go through this example. So to use AIM on this building, you first want to go to the lab benchmarking tool, lbt.I2SL.org. You want to have an account on the lab benchmarking tool. It is completely free to create an account. To log in, you need to have an account in order to enter building data in order to use the tool. So just do that part. Don't forget to click on the confirmation email that you will get from LBT to say, yes, this is a real email address. This is a real account. Otherwise, you may have problems logging in future. So definitely look for that email. And then if you want to use the AIM report, click on Learn More under Meet the AIM report. You'll be taken to this page that's got some information about AIM, and then also a button that says Try AIM Today. That's what we want to do. So we're going to click on that button. You're then taken to the subscription page where you have some options. You can start the free demo from here. Just click the button and you are enrolled in the demo, no problem. You can buy a full AIM subscription, or you can pay for a custom subscription. For that, you have to just click on this Contact I2SL button. These are things like if you want to purchase a multi-user subscription, or if you want to redeem one of the free subscriptions for sponsors, that sort of thing, click on that button and we'll help you get started. All right, so let's assume that we've purchased a full subscription. We then go back to the LBT, go to the Your Buildings page. You can see here, it's saying we have full AIM access, which is great. And then what we need to do is create a building in LBT, because you can't run an energy audit if you don't have a building to run it on. So you must create a building. So to do that, you hit the New Building button, and then you answer all of the questions about the building, or some of the questions about the building, on the tabs that pop up. So in order to get started, you really just need to fill out the required fields. And those are, as usual on the internet, the ones that have the red asterisks associated with them. It's not that many. If you do want information about what you'll need to fill out, we have a quick start guide on the LBT site and on the I2SL site as well that you can find. It's a 2-pager that just tells you how to get started using the tool. There's not that many fields you have to fill out in order to get here. It's like 12 to 15 fields. And if you've got the information about your building, it's 10 minutes to enter that information. So here I've entered the information on Super Test Facility. You can see that it's now in the table. You can see its energy score of 53, that same information that I told you. And then if I want to use the AIM report on that building and I have a subscription, I'll see this Create AIM Report button, and I'm going to click that button. All right, so what happens here is you're taken to the AIM dashboard. It's nice and colorful, and more or less, it's just showing you what you already told the LBT about your building. It's just doing so in a nicely formatted way. However, there's a couple other things that AIM has done. So one really cool thing is bottom left here, there's this list of implemented measures. So AIM has gone through your building information and it's detected which of the measures from AIM it believes are already present in your facility. And it's not going to show you this, it's not going to suggest those as options because you've already got them. Another thing it's done is it's created that energy model and it's created all of these assumptions about your facility based on what would be normal for a facility of that type. So before we get started building a package, a really good idea would be to just take a quick glance through those assumptions and make sure that we agree with them. And if there's anywhere that we can add more information, that's going to help with the accuracy of the calculations that AIM is able to do. So we can click on building parameters here. There's a couple different places on the screen we can click on it. And then we're taken to these various tabs showing the assumptions that have been made. The assumptions have these yellow tabs on them. It shows you what the assumption was. If you do want to change them, you just change them. You edit, you change the value, you click outside the field, and then everything will update. I just hit my mouse. All right, so let's say we wanted to change the utility rate for the building because we've made an assumption about the electric rate and yours is actually higher. You go to the financial tab here, there's an electricity cost, and you just change it. The assumption was 18 cents per kilowatt hour. We change it to 24 cents. We click outside the box and everything updates. Okay, so we've gone through, we've reviewed our parameters. Now it's time to create one of those packages to hold our measures. So we click the create package button and we're taken to an empty package after we give it a name. We want to start adding measures to our package. We click the add measure button and we're taken to this view. So this is a view where we see all of the applicable measures for your facility in the state it's in right now. AIM has done an energy savings calculation and a cost calculation for every one of those measures. And so what it's showing you here is custom to your facility. You can see here that the top measure in the list, the one with the highest savings is just how we're showing it, is VAV controls for your fume hoods. I mentioned that earlier that, those fume hoods in the corner, they're still CAV. It turns out they are limiting the turn down of airflow pretty significantly in the building. And so it is a pretty good idea to convert those to VAV. You can see the savings here and costs, and you can see all the descriptions here. So let's say this measure looks good to us, and we hit the add measure to package button. We've then got it in our package. But let's say we want to try and see what else we can do now. So now we'll add measure again, and then we get a new list of measures. So here what AIM has done is it's taken into account the fact that you're going to do VAV controls for your fume hoods. And so it's like, what else can you do now that you've done that? So what you'll see here is that on the list, there's a lot more of the fume hood measures that are now possible now that you're going to have VAV controls. The one that's highlighted here is the shut the sash program for fume hoods, because now that you've got a brand new working, well-commissioned VAV system for your fume hoods, you should be able to save some energy with a shut the sash program. So that's something you can now do. All of the numbers are based on the fact that that measure is already in place. They've all been recalculated. You'll see them spin for a few seconds when you go here. That's the calculations happening. All right, so then we click on add measure to package again, and then we do the same thing with a couple more measures. So here I've also added an unoccupied room airflow setback, which is now easier to do now that the fume hoods are no longer driving the airflow in those spaces. And then there's also setting ultra low temperature freezers to -70. We do have some of those plug load type measures in there as well. And this is another example of a good thing you can do in a lab facility. So here's our package. It's got 4 measures. Next, what we can look at, we can start clicking along the tabs at the top here. We click on the one that says savings details. We get taken to some nice savings charts. Here, there's this really nice waterfall chart showing how each measure reduces the overall utility costs of the building by a little bit. You also see breakdowns by utility type in terms of cost and EUI. Then we move to the case studies tab. Here, as I mentioned, you're seeing those case studies scored by relevance and quantity. You can expand any of these descriptions you like. You can click on the links to go to the full PDF of those case studies. And then we can go to the reports tab. So on the reports tab here, you can click generate report. And what that does is it takes a snapshot of the package the way it is right now. So if you go later and change parameters, change measures, and so on, that snapshot's not going to change. If you want to generate a report with the new version, generate a separate report and save it separately. So it's a really nice way to save these snapshots of here's a package that could work, and then you can play with it and save other scenarios as well. Then to export that as a PDF, there's an export PDF button. Um, Definitely use the save as PDF option rather than print to Bluebeam or other things like that. Save as PDF is the one that's going to give you the nicest formatting in that report. And then you can see the PDF report here. So that was the tour. Now we're going to talk a little bit about how to get started using the AIM report. So I mentioned already the LBT Quick Start Guide. We also have a Quick Start Guide for AIM. It's another 2-pager that's on the website. Should be reasonably easy to find. It's a really good way of just seeing what the most important kind of key things are that you need to be looking at when you're getting started. We also have a pretty comprehensive help center on the AIM website with quite a lot of articles showing the list of measures that are in there, list of case studies, how the calculations work, that sort of thing. We have a lot of FAQs, and we're going to be having some video clips and a video walkthrough coming pretty soon as well. So there are lots of resources there for you if you'd like to get started, or that you could share with others if you're encouraging them to get started using the report. So subscriptions. As I mentioned, AIM is hosted on the Lab Benchmarking Tool website. So if you want to get to it and start using it, you go to the Lab Benchmarking Tool. You'll see on there, as we already saw, that there are subscription plans. There's a free demo plan. That the only way that is different from the full version is that you get access to fewer of the measures. And we'll see that on the next slide, actually. For the full version, it's a subscription service. So you can pay monthly or annually. The cost per month is quite a bit lower if you pay for a year upfront. This is very normal for software as a service on the internet, as you would expect. Right now, we have quite a lot of discounts in place on the pricing. So we have a 20% introductory discount on all pricing until November 30th. We also have pretty significant discounts for our I2SL members, SLCAN members, our sponsors. If you're purchasing a multi-user plan, our sponsor organizations also get some free subscriptions. So if you're from one of those, definitely encourage you to claim your free subscription. And I think one thing to highlight about these costs is that every one of these plans, whatever you do, can provide AIM reports for all of your buildings for less than the cost of a single on-site energy audit. And that was really one of our goals at the start. We wanted to be able to do that. So talking about the free demo, as I mentioned, it has all the same features as the full AIM report. You get to edit all the parameters, you get to create packages, look at case studies, generate reports. It's just that we have a restricted set of measures in there. There are only 5 measures that you can access. And so these are screenshots from the demo version. You see all the same information, except there's a little bar up here encouraging you to upgrade. And then some of the measures have this like grade outlook. I'm sorry, hit the wrong thing there. Some of the measures have this grade outlook where it will tell you you need to upgrade to premium to see this measure, but all the rest works just the same way. We do have, speaking of getting started, we do have trainings available on using the lab benchmarking tool and the AIM report. One thing we offer is a 3-hour workshop. That's a hands-on training session on using the lab benchmarking tool and AIM. Any attendee at those sessions receives a pretty significant discount on subscription prices. So it's definitely good to come. You both get to learn how to use the tool and you get a really significant discount on the price. It's something we can do virtually or in person. We've done it a few times before, and then we have some upcoming workshops scheduled at our annual conference. It's one of the pre-conference trainings you can sign up for. And we're doing one with our Colorado chapter in November, and then at the SLCAN conference also in November. And so if this is something that you and your organization would be interested in, or an organization that could be interested in this training, definitely let us know. And that's something we would hope to schedule. The same for presentations. If there's an organization that would benefit from a presentation or a group at your organization, just let us know. We're very happy to get the word out there about this new product. I just want to emphasize that this is something that just has not existed for lab buildings before. We've done something new for lab facilities. And so it's not going to be uppermost in people's mind. Oh, I need to do calculations. I'm going to go use the AIM report. So we really want to make sure that people know that it's out there so that when they do need to do audits, calculations, energy savings for lab buildings, they're going to think, oh yeah, AIM report, let's use that. All right, so what's coming next? So we're certainly not done with the development of Labs to Zero. We've got lots more things in the works. We are later this year or at the beginning of next year going to be updating our energy and emission scores for lab facilities. That's something we've been able to do because we've had so many people using the tool to get their scores in the last couple of years that we've been able to amass a bigger data set and do a better job of statistically representing different types of lab facilities in those scores. So those updates are going to be coming soon. We're also looking to develop other scores, including scoring for embodied carbon. The lab benchmarking tool does accept embodied carbon information, and so we're looking to collect a large enough data set so that we can do a similar exercise with that and issue an embodied carbon score for lab buildings. We're also looking at adding a score for market-based operational emissions, which we don't yet have. It's all location-based right now. So a lot of things coming up on the score front. We're going to be looking at layering on certifications so that we can recognize high scoring buildings. That's something we'll be talking about in the near future. And then we'll be adding more training to the workshop offering that I talked about before. We're looking to add additional training modules. We're going to be upgrading AIM. We're not done with AIM. We're going to be adding more stuff to it, and I will show you that in just a minute. And then we're also going to be tying in with another new program offering from I2SL, the Fume Hood Challenge. So I've got a couple slides here on the Fume Hood Challenge just to tell you about this exciting new thing that we're developing. So here it is, the I2SL International Fume Hood Challenge. The tagline here is that it's like the International Freezer Challenge, but for fume hoods. So if you know what the Freezer Challenge is, you probably know what we're going to do. If you don't, then we probably need a better tagline for this. But the idea is that this is inspired by the Shut the Sash contest that a lot of organizations have done to try to encourage friendly competition to see who can get the most savings out of their fume hoods. So this is going to be an international friendly competition that we're currently developing to see which organizations or buildings can get the most out of their fume hoods. That doesn't just cover Shut the Sash, although that's certainly a component. It has also a broader scope. So it's going to include also looking at the overall HVAC systems that are serving the fume hoods, making sure that those are operating properly, those get optimized if needed. We're also going to be looking at hibernating fume hoods that are not used. And we're going to be making sure that everyone who's involved in facilities and EH&S and occupant engagement at the facilities really get together and work together on helping their building win this challenge. So we're very excited about this new program. And it also does tie into the subject of this webinar. It ties into the LBT and Labs to Zero, because the LBT is going to be the data entry platform for the fume hood competition. So people doing the competition are going to see the LBT. LBT users are going to hear about the competition, and there's going to be a lot of synergies there. Also, our free demo AIM report that I already mentioned includes a Shut the Sash measure. And so for people looking to participate in the competition, they can see which of their buildings might get the best savings from that type of measure. And then we're also really excited that the results of that competition will be able to be fed back into the AIM report calculations to sort of close the feedback loop and improve the accuracy of the information that we're giving out with AIM. So a lot of exciting things happening there. We are going to be asking for sponsors for this program. We're going to be setting up technical advisory groups for this program as well. That's both happening in the near future. So look out for emails on that, announcements about that, and just reach out to us if you're interested in getting involved in that program too. Now, moving on to talking about what's coming up for AIM, we're going to be adding new features in the near future. The biggest one in the nearest future is internationalization, fully internationalizing the tool. We're also going to be adding new calculation features to the way we do the energy model. And we're going to be adding more measures, as I mentioned before. So specifically on the internationalization, right now, the version that is live only works for US buildings. That was just a software limitation. We just wanted to get it out quickly. Our big project that we're currently working on is internationalizing the tool. So when we do that release of the internationalized tool, which we're hoping will be close to the end of this year, we're going to have metric units. We're going to have global weather data, global utility rate assumptions, global implementation costs, currency conversions, and our narratives will make sure to have both sets of units, US units and metric in them. So lots of things that we're doing to make sure that AIM can be used by lab buildings all across the globe. There are other things we've heard that, people in some countries might be interested in, including like localized databases, translations into other languages, and local resellers for the software. That's not going to be in our international release that will be at the end of this year, but those are things that we've heard and that we're talking with organizations about. On the new measures and calculations, the new calculation features are pretty exciting. We're going to have more different types of lab space in AIM. We're going to be including better envelope effects, and then we're going to have more settings that you can change for air handler properties. So it's a little bit technical, but they are things that are going to really help broaden the calculations for more types of lab facilities. We're adding 12 new measures in the next release after the internationalization. It was focused on adding more zone control measures, adding more HVAC system upgrades. And then we're adding this other group of measures that's quite exciting, that's to do with recommissioning, that's to do with addressing issues and deficiencies in the building. So this is a pretty exciting new group of measures. Of course, lab building systems degrade like the systems in any other kind of building, and there can be really good savings available from implementing some of these recommissioning exercises. So we're going to be putting those in as measures in the tool. Another thing that's an ongoing effort for us is collecting more case studies. So we do have a pretty significant library of case studies for the measures that are in AIM right now, but we are always looking for more case studies. So specifically on the existing measures, the 26 measures, the new measures, those 12 that I showed on the previous slide. And then we're also looking for global examples of those measures in action as we start to expand to the full international tool. So many case studies are what we're looking for essentially. For each of those case studies, if you have a project or a case study you would like to be highlighted in the AIM report, then let us know. What we would need would be project information, some building summary information. We need to know which measures are included in the case study, and then some information about the key outcomes of those projects. And we do have a detailed sheet that's got a questionnaire. If you just have a nice PDF case study, we can also take that and process it and extract that information for you. So just let us know if that's something you'd like, because this is a great place to highlight successful projects, and we'd love to get more of your projects in there. So we're getting towards the end here. I want to do a quick look ahead to our annual conference, which is now coming up in less than a month in Dallas. We're going to be doing a lot of activities to do with Labs to Zero at the conference. So on the Sunday morning before the conference, I already mentioned that we will have our 3-hour hands-on workshop to the LBT and AIM. That's in the morning. It's an add-on to your registration for the conference. And anyone who attends gets a really big discount on the AIM pricing. So a good incentive to come to that session. Our technical advisory councils are all meeting at the conference. If any of you on that, we're going to be sending out the topics for those soon. All of our TAC members are welcome to attend any of those meetings. We'll be having 3 technical sessions at the conference on aspects of AIM and the energy scores. And then we'll also have a morning forum on the Tuesday morning at the conference before the session starts, where we're going to be inviting anyone, not just TAC members, to come and let us know what you think about the AIM program. And we'll have a couple of focus topics for that as well. So with that, that is the end of the prepared part of this webinar. I want to say thank you to everyone for attending, for listening. We are very, very excited for all of you to get out there and try the AIM report on our other tools. And thank you again also to all of our TAC members, our volunteers, our sponsors, our development partner organizations. It's really been, a couple of years of work, intense work by all of us to make this happen. And, we're very excited that it's here now. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Allison, and we appreciate all your hard work on this project. And I'll give you a moment to breathe or take a sip of water. We do have a couple of questions that showed up in the chat. If you do have a question about the AIM report or anything else going on that Allison mentioned with Labs to Zero, please feel free to use the Q&A icon on your screen. But in the meantime, there's a question about how to get to the free tool to show the recommendations, which I think is sort of getting at where would one find the list of measures that are in the AIM report?
Oh, yes. So yeah, good question. If you're looking for the list of measures, then that's something that you'll find on the AIM help site. So If you are in the AIM report, you can go down to the bottom left and there's a little button that says AIM help. Um, so you go back to a screenshot. I apologize for scrolling quickly through all of this stuff, but yeah, you can see bottom left here, there's this little help center icon. You can go there and find it there. The AIM help is also linked from the LBT help site. So you can click on it from there as well. You don't have to be inside the AIM tool. So that's where you find a list of all the measures that we have in our library. In order to find the measures that are applicable to your building, you do need to enter a building in the lab benchmarking tool so that AIM has something to do its calculations on. And then you just go to the AIM report, create a package, and click add measures. And then you will get that full list of measures. And that will also include at that point the calculated savings and costs and the full measure narrative for those.
Great. We also had a question, is the tool useful? Can it be integrated during the design process of a lab project?
That's a really good question. So the way that we designed this version of the tool, it is mostly designed to be used for existing buildings. So these are measures that are very much lab focused, but that are focused on what you can do as a retrofit project in an existing building. In future, a future phase of this project is to create a slightly different version of this tool that is more tuned to new construction facilities. Many of the measures are the same. It's just that quite often the costs are different and the baseline assumption would be different. And so there are some slight differences there. That's not to say that you can't use AIM as part of the design process for a new facility. You would just have to, exercise a little bit of caution with some of the measures and knowing that the way they're presented, they're really intended to be for existing facility retrofits.
Great, thanks. I'll give people just a couple more minutes to see if there are any more questions. And Allison, I'll pose one to you that I hear sometimes. Do we, for someone who hasn't used the lab benchmarking tool before and is trying it for the first time and wants to try AIM, is there, I know it's all in the quick start guide, but is there like a sort of quick list of the types of data that they should make sure that they gather ahead of time before they start?
Yeah, great question. And there is that list of data, and it is in the Quick Start Guide. That's really what the Quick Start Guide is for. But really, the types of data that we're looking for, the mandatory types of data, are some basic information about the lab building, like where it's located, when it was built, how big it is, how much lab space there is in there, what kind of lab space it is, and then how much energy it consumes. We do also ask for the occupied hours per week. That's different from the operating hours per week. We know most lab buildings operate 24/7. It is the actual occupancy per week when it's normally occupied. And then we also ask for the number of fume hoods. So that's your kind of dozen data points that we ask for there. They are listed in the Quick Start Guide. If you're looking just to sort of try it out and you're looking for inspiration, the Quick Start Guide does also have an example building in there with some examples of what you could put in. If you would like, just put those in. The only thing we would ask is that in the first page that asks you for the LBT data, mark it as test data so that we don't accidentally think that that's a real building and put it in our peer group data set. Just mark it as test data. And in general, as long as it's marked as test data, go ahead and put in whatever you want into the tool for whatever you want to try. But definitely feel free to use that example that's in the Quick Start Guide.
That's a good point. You can play around with the tool, but do note that it's not real data, so it doesn't get absorbed in. Great.
Yep.
If somebody were just, maybe they only have one building and so they go for a 1 month subscription, what happens at the end of that month? Will they lose every access to everything that they did, or how does that work?
Great. Yes. So if you want a 1 month subscription, you start the subscription up, and if you don't cancel it, you will get billed the next month as well. So if you know you just want 1 month, the thing to do is you set up the subscription and then you can cancel it the next day, the same day, whatever you want, and you will only get that 1 month. So same way you do with other internet services, I'm sure. At the end of that period, you will lose access to the full version of AIM. You'll be put back in the demo version. And that means that if you had packages that had the full version measures that are not in the demo version, you won't be able to export reports from those. You won't be able to see those anymore. You'll still be able to export reports that you created before because those are snapshots. Those are yours. You took them, but you won't be able to interact with those other measures anymore. If you do resubscribe at a later date, you'll regain access to it and there'll be no problem. So we don't delete anyone's data. You just lose the ability to further interact with the full version measures if you're back on the demo plan.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm not seeing any other questions in the Q&A or chat, but Allison or Gordon, was there anything else that you'd like to say about the AIM report?
You've all heard from me. Gordon, how about
Yeah,
you?
yeah. I just to say again, I just recommend if people are interested and you want to know more, we do have these workshops, and as I said, we have them at the conference, and we can also schedule them if there's organizations that would like us to give a workshop at their either virtually or potentially maybe in at their facility if there's a large enough interest. We can do that as well. That the discount is quite significant. I think right now we're talking about maybe a 30% discount off the normal cost of AIM. So it's obviously well worth people's while if they're interested in participating in that. So again, both Alison and I are be giving those workshops, and I think they'll be quite beneficial. So
Great. And I put that link, email address labs0@i2sl.org for anyone who has any additional questions or interests or would like to hold a workshop. So thanks, Gordon. Well, with that, I'm going to thank Allison for all her time and everyone who's helped contribute to and worked on the Labs to Zero and AIM report, especially our sponsors and our partners. So thank you everyone for being here today.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.